Okay, this is the second to last video covering chapter 6. Sarah Grimké, Angelina Grimké's sister, wrote in response a series of articles, letters on the condition of women and the equality of sexes, as a response to a pastoral letter from the General Association of Ministers of Massachusetts commanding ministers to forbid women to speak from the pulpits. So Sarah Grimké said, I ask no favors of my sex. She said, I ask no favors for my sex. I surrender not our claim to equality. All I ask of our brethren is that they will take their feet from off our necks and permit us to stand upright on the ground which God has designed us to occupy. To me, it is perfectly clear that whatsoever it is morally right for a man to do, it is morally right for a woman to do. Sarah could write with power, and Angelina was the firebrand speaker. Angelina was the first woman in 1838 to address the committee of Massachusetts legislature on anti-slavery petitions. She said, I was so near fainting under the tremendous pressure of feeling. Speaking out on other issues prepared the way for speaking on the situation of women. Dorothea Dix in 1843 addressed the legislature of Massachusetts on what she saw in the prisons and almshouses in the Boston area. I tell what I have seen, painful and shocking as the details often are. I proceed, gentlemen, briefly to call your attention to the present state of the insane persons confined within this commonwealth in cages, closets, cellars, stalls, pens, chained, naked, beaten with rods, and lashed into obedience. Women were fighting for the liberation of women. They were fighting against slavery. They were fighting for prison reform. They were fighting on behalf of those that were mentally ill. Frances Wright was a writer, founder of a utopian community, immigrant from Scotland in 1824, a writer for the emancipation of slaves and for birth control and for sexual freedom. She wanted free public education for all children over 2 years of age in state-supported boarding schools. It says here, women put in enormous work in anti-slavery societies all over the country, gathering thousands of petitions to Congress. Eleanor Flexner writes in a century of struggle. Today, countless file boxes in the National Archives in Washington bear witness to that anonymous and heartbreaking labor. The petitions are yellowed and frail, glued together, page on page, covered with ink blots, signed with scratchy pens, with an occasional erasure by one who fearfully thought better of so bold an act. They bear the names of women's anti-slavery societies from New England to Ohio. In 1840, a World Anti-Slavery Society convention met in London. After a fierce argument, it was voted to exclude women, but it was agreed that they could attend meetings in a curtained enclosure. Women went to this convention. There was one debate, and men said, you know what? Put them behind a curtain. They cannot speak anymore.